Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, I want to talk about label reading. I know there's a lot of us who don't really understand what a label on a product is, let alone what all the numbers mean. So, I want to give you a quick overview today of how to read those and why they're so important. So, first of all, why they're important. Why it's important to learn to read labels on the food that you're eating. Number one is to have a really good understanding of actually what you're putting in your body and to be more aware of how you're nourishing it and what chemicals or things that maybe you're putting in that aren't so good for you. Number two is definitely to be aware of, again, the things that are not good for you that could cause you harm, could cause you to be sick or cause you to develop diseases over time, which obviously none of us want. And another reason, obviously, is if you have allergies to or intolerances that you know about, to be able to identify those on the label and avoid that product. So one of the first steps that I made in my journey to health was absolutely learning to label read. And it was so essential for getting me to start turning those wheels in my head and thinking about what I was putting in my body. So even if you don't understand everything that's on there, it'll start kicking those gears, and eventually you'll get a better understanding of what it means and how it's making you feel as you eat those things. So here I'm going to just go through it with you, a label, and I want to really just point out the things that I really want you to pay attention to. So here I have a organic vegetable broth that has a nice label on it that I'll just show you and go through it. So if I can get this in the camera, I'm sure you've all seen this before. It's called the Nutrition Facts label. It's mandatory to be on all food products in Canada and the US and most other countries around the world. So at the top here, you'll see the first thing listed is serving size. So I want to draw your attention to that. This one is per 1 cup. And that's telling you that everything else on this label, all the numbers, are in reference to that size of a portion. Now, one thing that I really want you to know about that serving size is that it's absolutely up to whoever made this product to decide on the size. More often than not, it's not realistic. So keep an eye on that. You know, if you pick up a box of crackers and it says 1 cracker, really pay attention, because all those numbers below are referring to just eating 1 cracker, and odds are you're not just eating 1 cracker. Who sits down and just eats 1 cracker, right? So keep that in mind when you're comparing products, especially. They can be completely different. Another soup stock could have its serving size as half a cup. So I need to know that when I'm comparing the numbers. So that said, the next thing I really want to point out, so the next thing that comes down is calories. We all know what those are. Fats here. They mandatorily have to list saturated and trans fats, because those are the ones that have been proven to cause some issues, especially trans fats. So I would like to say that saturated fats are necessary for life. They are needed for a lot of processes in your body, and they're not bad for you. It's the type of saturated fat and the amount that you're getting in your diet that have been linked to causing health problems and heart disease and cancer and different things like that. The trans fats are the ones that you really, really want to pay attention to. You want to make sure it's always 0. Trans fats are really, really terrible for your health and have been linked to a lot of heart disease and a lot of high blood pressure and other issues in health. They are essentially fats that have been created in a laboratory, and they do all sorts of crazy things once they get in your body. So really try to avoid those if you can. The next thing up on the label is cholesterol. And then we've got sodium here, and that is salt. So when you see sodium, I know it seems most of us should know that, but if you don't, sodium is salt. And that's one thing that we do tend to get a lot of already in our diet, and we don't really want to add a lot more. We do need salt to live, but not a lot. So that's something that's on here for you to keep an eye on and try to keep that down. And then you've got carbohydrates here, and they've mentioned 2 of the subcategories. There's more types of carbohydrates, but they've got fiber there, which is wonderful. And then they list sugars here, which is something that is also very important to keep an eye on. Sugar is a huge issue these days, and most of us need a lot less of it, and it's actually in a lot of products. They add it for flavoring, and it's being linked to a lot of health issues, damaging the gut, weakening the immune system, sugar, let alone weight gain, and issues with insulin resistance. So sugar is something that I would always keep an eye on, and if you can, try to get things that don't have any sugar in it. Should say 0 grams. If you can't, keep it really low. Like for mental sake, 1 teaspoon of sugar. Picture a heaping teaspoon of white sugar is 4 grams. So if you see a product that says, per 1 cup, it's 4 grams, then that's in 1 cup of that product, you're having a teaspoon of sugar. So that's quite a bit. This soup broth here has 2 grams of sugar in the 1 cup. So it's about half a teaspoon in 1 cup. It's not the best. And when you look down, you can see they added some sugar. So it's up to you and what you feel is helping your body. So next on the label there, you'll see protein listed. And that's, again, we all know protein is essential for life. So they've got that listed there. No big surprise. And then below they have actually just 4 vitamins and minerals that are mandatory to list on the label. I just want to point out here that there are a lot more than just 4 vitamins and minerals that are necessary for a healthy life. So there's at least 20 or 30 more. And then there's trace minerals that we need a little bit of. So this isn't really taking into account the big picture of what you really need in terms of everything. It's just a quick snapshot of some of the ones that I guess somebody's decided is the most important to keep track of. So that's sort of the label. And I did want to mention here, because this is kind of where it can get confusing, or we don't really understand. But over here, it says % daily value, and then it gives percentages by each of the nutrient categories. This is based off of a person needing 2,000 calories a day. And then it's comparing, for instance here, like let's see here, there's sodium here, there's 140 milligrams. And then it will compare and do the calculation and put it into a percentage. So saying that this 1 cup of this has 6% of the sodium that you need to live healthily in 1 day. Now, I just want to mention quickly here that is based off of somebody who just needs a 2,000 calorie diet, and most of us are at different numbers than that. If you're active or pregnant or male, you need more than that. So this can be a bit confusing. It's a good snapshot, but it's not everything. So lastly, I really just want to point out that when I actually read a label, the most important place to find any good information is actually the list of ingredients. So sure, all these numbers up top are good kind of guidelines, but what I want you to do is start looking at the ingredient list. So that's where you're going to find what you're actually putting in your body. All this up here is just nutrients. We can't really understand what that means, or if it's good for us, or where it came from, or the quality of it. So looking at the ingredients will tell you exactly what's in there and what they've added and how much of it is processed or questionable. So some of the things that I really want you to look for in the ingredient list, some of the good things that you want to keep an eye out for, are things like whole grains and meal and bran and whole food. So if it lists almonds or sunflower seeds, that's a whole food. Things like onion or garlic or herbs. And then organic is always gonna guarantee that there's a lot less preservatives and chemicals in the product. Those are some of the things that I would definitely keep an eye out for. Things that I really want you to look for that to avoid are in fact sugar. So whenever they've added sugar, especially if it's in the top of the list, because that's what's the most of in that product, definitely try to avoid that. Anything you can't pronounce. So if it's something you can't pronounce, it's probably something you shouldn't put in your body. And I know you've heard this before, so just a reminder. Keep an eye out for added salt, soy, anything that says hydrogenated. That's those trans fats, those really questionable fats. And then natural and artificial flavoring. They're both not really natural. So those, as well as coloring, or anything that says modified. So keep an eye out for those. And then you should be ready to kind of have an eye on what's actually in your food that you're eating. Take a look at the ingredient list. That's the most important part. So right now, I want you to actually go into your pantry and grab out some products and start looking at the labels. Just start getting those wheels turning and be more aware of what's going on in your food. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned a little bit or cleared up some issues there for you, but I'm sure I missed something. So please, please, please comment below or reply and get in touch with me and let me know if you have any more questions, because I'd love to open this wide to you and teach you more about this. If there's anything that I missed and that you're more curious about, let's get chatting. Thanks, everybody. Bye.